Willow Creek Springs presents Healthy Living with your host, Joe Grumbine.
Hello and welcome to the Healthy Living Podcast brought to you by Willow Creek Springs. I'm Joe Grumbine and I will be your host. And I have back again for part 2 of Living a Balanced Life and Taking Care of Yourself with Christine Leakos. Christine, welcome back. How are you doing today?
Doing great. Thanks,
So
Joe.
good. I love it. I love it. Well, we were just deep into a great conversation about balance and all of the different factors of, your genetics and all the different things that affect your health. And I was really loving the way you were going. You were telling us about your mother, or your grandmother, who's a healer and had diabetes and treated herself with herbs and leaves, and you, even as a young child, knew, you had a gut that kind of drew. It's funny because they talk about the gut as being your second brain. I think maybe it's your first brain, and the one up in your head might be your second brain, depending on who you are. And some people have that gut, you hear about that gut feeling, that gut instinct, that gut, but really that's your body talking to you, going, hey, this is what you should do. Hey, this is good, this is not good. I mean, and the fact that you listen to your gut as a youngster is indicative. Maybe that was leading you to where you are right now as a student in the healing arts.
Well, it took me a while to be here. What got me into college was interior design. Finished that, jumped into accounting. From accounting, then ended up with my MBA, then became a certified fraud examiner for the federal government, and walked away from all that yuckness. And here I am.
You got a resume like mine. It's totally different, but a lot of things.
I've done quite a bit. But what drove me to holistic medicine is the fact that there's a lot of people hurting out there, and a lot of people are not being heard. You go to the doctor, you're there for 15 minutes, you get a prescription, you leave. Where's the love and care? 80% of the healing starts how you treat that patient.
Mhm.
And that's something that I've grown to learn, but it's an innate ability for me, because how you treat yourself is a good part of, like, what I've been learning. And I have an innate ability to just surround myself around those that need help. And I either help with pain, I help with just your mental process and how to deal with you and your own life. So in a way, I not only help you with your health, I also help you with your mental health. And how do I do that? By listening to the patient. And somewhere along the side, inside of me, I direct to help that patient. So in a nutshell, this is who I am. And I love what I do, and I love who I am. And I've evolved. I've come around a long way. I mean, Joe, I met you like 7 years ago, I think.
Been a minute.
And you've taught me quite a lot. And I started ground up, and I just ran with it.
I love it. I love it. And I mean, I think one of the things that's great, I've always tried to surround myself with people that had things I don't have, in the sense of, or at least have the things that I wish I had more of, and focus and ambition are always, important in getting somewhere and doing something. And the balance of that makes it hard, though. You see, the highest performers in life are generally not that balanced, right? I mean, they go so hard into their skill set in order to, compete and be the best. You have to put so much time and so much energy. A lot of times these very same people are lopsided. They might be brilliant in this one thing, but they can barely hold a conversation with a human being, or they spend so much time thinking, they don't ever get out and walk around. They have issues. And yet there are cultures, there are practices, there are traditions that would say, well, it's not necessarily better to be the best. Maybe it's better to be balanced. Maybe it's better to have a little bit of everything you need instead of, all of the one thing and none of the other. And I tend to think that that's true, even though I happen to go a little extreme when I see. I think what happens, and I think this is an element that doesn't get brought up. I'm going to be doing a podcast episode just on this one little topic, and I call it vitamin J, and it's the vitamin joy. It's when you can't wait to do that thing because you're so excited because it's so great and you just want to get back to it. You want to think about it all the time. Maybe it's a person that you just met that's so exciting, or maybe it's a new hobby or a new thing you learned, a new trick, a new whatever. And you're just so into it that you just want to do that and nothing else. And I think that when you can find a thing like that, then you'll spend some time immersed in it and you probably will do too much of it. But then it'll come a point where you can do a lot of it, but it doesn't seem like it, right? Because you enjoy it. And I think that that's a thing that maybe if we could find a way, like, I don't know why it is, but it seems that most of the things that are good for you are not pleasant. And most of the things that are bad for you are very pleasant. Now, I don't know who figured that part out, but I don't like it because, you think about it. If you like sweets and candy, well, none of that's ever good for you. Most people have a propensity to like sweets and candy. If you like bread and fruit and all the good stuff that isn't all that great for you, but you sure love it. Get into drugs, alcohol, bad habits, chocolate, whatever. It seems that the things that maybe are good for you in some moderation, but it's real easy to go excessive. Those are those things that are so enjoyable. They hit your pleasure center so hard. And then the things that are really good for you, like exercise, strength building, like as much as you get a reward from accomplishing it, doing it generally sucks, right? Pushing hard against something that doesn't want to be pushed is not fun, even though the feeling of once I did it and doing the thing you've never done is incredibly fun, but the actual act is not generally that fun. Stretching, it hurts, I mean, maybe some people find it enjoyable, but the actual going from a tight muscle to a flexible muscle, there's a point of pain in there generally. A good massage usually hurts a little bit. You have to learn how to relax through it. Most herbal concoctions are kind of bitter. They're not generally very tasty. How does it work like that? And I'm probably painting with a very broad brush, but just something I've noticed along the way.
Well, everything I feel is a matter of perspective
Mhm.
because you mentioned excessive candy. Well, why does it have to be excessive?
Mhm.
What happens to self-control? So I don't I fall short from my transgressions. I am not perfect by any stretch of the imagination. However, if I've been eating healthy 2, 3, 4 days and I want a caramelized ginger candy, because what did I give out for Halloween? Ginger candy.
I love it.
Those mothers were looking at me like, yay. Those kids were looking at me like, no.
Where's my
So
Snickers?
I, I don't like the fact if I eat too much candy, I get a head rush. It's a sugar head rush.
Right.
So I used to love Carvel milkshakes, but guess what? I'm lactose intolerant. Nobody's
Right.
going to want to be around me after that shake, honestly. So I have restructured my life to live according to my body standards. As a child, yeah, I had my burger with my cheese because I tolerated lactose then. I can't tolerate lactose now. Will I eat a vegan cheese? No. Why? Turn around and look at those ingredients. If you can't pronounce an ingredient, it's not meant to be ingested. We are biological beings to consume biological things. I was just reading something And you know, I was reading it, not that I'm making a statement, okay? But McDonald's, I've heard you can keep it in the trunk of your car for 10 years
For 5 years,
and not have a
another
solitary
Leakos.
mold.
Yeah.
Now,
Pull it
if
out,
you love
eat it,
yourself,
it'll
why
be
would
the
you consume
same.
that?
Right.
Yeah.
That's scary.
But you know, there are some folks out there that have a limited budget,
Right.
but there are other ways and means to cater to a holistic way of living. You just have to make that extra push and know that excessive is not a cool thing. The
Right.
body does not like excessive things. Your body loves balance. And again, everything in moderation. Hold yourself accountable. Every time you're gonna grab something to eat, look at it, observe it, and say, are you good for me or not good for me? What are you going to do about me? And you know, some of us struggle with weight. Some of us maintain skinny. And why? Because you're biologically built that way. But I've I have clients and I've told them, you don't like your weight? Get naked, get in front of that mirror and
Mhm.
say to yourself,
Yeah.
do I want to stay this way? Get the bikini that you want to wear. Put
Mhm.
it, hang it up on your mirror.
Yeah.
Every day, that's what you look at and
Yeah.
say, that is my motivation. I
Absolutely.
want to be able to fit into that thing. So
Yeah.
every time you put something in your mouth that you shouldn't be, look at the bikini again. I'm not saying that looking at social media, yeah, I'm not saying that social media is the answer because social media is pretty depressing.
Mm.
A
Indeed.
lot of people post their best self on
Right.
social media.
And
You
there's just so
cannot
many
live your life.
filters and
Yeah.
bogus 10-year-old pictures, and it's a lot of smoke and mirrors. But I like the idea of goals as a balancing beam. I like the idea of, I'm very goal conscious in the sense of I like in my scale, I put anything on the scale and says it get me towards my goal or pushing away. It can't do both, and it can't be neither. It's either going to be doing one or the other. And honesty becomes really important in this equation because, we're really good. I think the human mind is probably best at reckoning things, coming up with a reason why, and making an excuse or a justification or whatever. But if we're actually truly honest, the answers are usually pretty right in front of us, and they're not easy to own or acknowledge, but they're easy to know what they are. And I think that's when
Mhm.
you're the only one that can move yourself. And so all the doctors and all the therapists and all the practitioners and everybody telling you whatever, you can take what they say and you say, well, they said that, but, or, well, that one said that, but the other one said that other thing, right? So you can pick and choose what you like, but deep inside when you're right and when you're not. I think that maybe one of the things that I talk about a lot, and I think that it's important, is just being honest with yourself and um, establishing a goal, but also establishing where you are today. Like, 5, 6 years ago, I set out on a weight loss journey, and one of the ways that I deal with that, and even today, I've been in a maintenance program for a couple of years now. Every day at the same time, every day I jump on that scale and I look down and I say, okay, where am I at right now? And if I go over a certain line, I have a set of actions that I've agreed to take, and I do those things. But if I didn't jump on that scale every day, for probably 20 years, I never jumped on a scale once because I didn't care. I didn't want to see it. I didn't want to know. It didn't matter. And it was easy to ignore what was happening. And what was happening was I was getting bigger and bigger and bigger, and it wasn't getting any better. And once I took accountability for it and I set a goal of where I wanted to be and what was now going to be acceptable once I hit that goal, I think that became, a game changer for me. And every day, no matter what, if I'm on vacation, that's fine. I got a week's reprieve. I get back, first thing I do, jump on that scale, say, where the hell am I? And there's a difference between being a slave to something and being excessive to it. Like you said, if I've been good for 3, 4 days, I can have a little cheat. It's fine. I just don't eat, you know, 12
But
cheeseburgers
the
like I might
key,
want to. Yeah. I can have
What
one.
is
Maybe
that
I'll even
to you?
have two, but I don't have to go to that crazy ugly place that my animal brain's like, ha ha ha, I want all of it. And you're gonna feel like crap when you get done eating it anyways, but just that brief moment of consuming where it's so wonderful. But I think that being honest and accountable is um, a good ingredient to find a balance. um, you deal with a lot of different practices. And when we were talking ahead of time a little bit about what we were going to discuss, I had a sense that even though we're going to dive deep into this one topic, there's going to be way more to talk about. You talk about balance, you talk about your body's endocannabinoid system and all these other things that we haven't even touched on. We don't have time to touch on. But what I want to do touch on is you are studying a number of modalities, a number of techniques, practices that each one of them can have a powerful effect on the body and the mind and the spirit. Um, and, you know, when somebody comes to you, or maybe it's just you thinking about, okay, what am I going to do to make a correction? Like, I think when we can establish a baseline, like when I began my journey, I said, well, I'm going to hit a point where I know I'm okay. And when I do, I'm going to take a snapshot of that. And I learned a technique in a brain technique that says you can literally take a snapshot and you'll remember it. You say, okay, here we go right now, click. And that moment you'll remember. You can go back and remember. Oh, remember that moment? Oh yeah, I remember it because you put a trigger, you put a bookmark in your brain. And so I
Mhm.
woke up one morning feeling great. I have an energy. My weight was right. My strength was good. I go, this is it. This is my operating um this is where I am. This is where I want to stay. And this is what I balance everything against. So now if I wake up and I'm a little groggy, I think to myself, well, I'm a little off. What's up? And then I try to figure out what did I do or don't do, but I wonder, if we can establish sort of like a baseline. You have to actually spend a little bit of time with yourself and pay attention to everything you're doing and notice, like, when I did this a little more, I feel this a little different. Like, it's hard. And you have to actually, like you talked about, being listened to. I've been to a lot of doctors over the years in trying to solve my lung problem, and most of them I just walked out of going, never mind, because you didn't even hear me. You didn't even ask me any questions. You just wanted to take a picture and stick your needle in my lungs. And I'm like, that's not the answer. And then finally I find a doctor who sits me down and starts talking to me and asking me probative questions. And when I tell him the answers, he's like thinking about it. I'm like, wow, you're actually engaged. And I remember that doctor's face. I don't remember his name, but I could sit there and remember. You get me, and that was 20 years ago. And I think you're spot on there. And as a practitioner, I'm hoping that I'm sure that you are, because you mentioned it, but I'm sure that you're not going to lose that. There's something that happens when a practitioner, a doctor gets busy. They probably are still trying to do the most good, and they're probably relying on their expertise and their knowledge and their training and all the things. But the old school doctor, he'd come to your house and have dinner with you. He'd ask you questions. He'd look at your family. He'd look around. He'd see what was in your cupboards. He'd see the condition of your floors. He'd see what you were wearing. He would try to find a solution rather than maybe just identifying a specific little problem and putting a cap on it. I'm wondering, with all these tools you're putting in your box, it seems to me that it would be really important for you to spend quite a bit of time talking to people to figure out even how to create a program for them, right?
Well, yeah. Um, we not only look at the patient, and because you'll come in and you'll tell us your symptoms, but we look at things like your pulse, your tongue. We ask you how you eat. Are you exercising? What do you do on a daily basis? And we give you advice as to what to put in your mouth. Sometimes people have heat in their stomachs and they're over there eating spicy foods.
I
They're
got
wondering
heartburn.
why
I
they have
don't
an
know
acid
why.
reflux. So we assess the entire patient. Now, I love Chinese medicine, and I am also being introduced to Ayurveda. Chinese medicine has different facets, as I mentioned, of healing, but I'm also entertained by frequencies and machineries that can actually see what's going on with a very high percentage of accuracy. And it's mind-blowing how many machines are out there that are frowned upon by some. Some people call it hocus pocus, whatever floats your boat. But I've done extensive amount of research in this area and can tell you with a great deal of validity of what's going on. And what's amazing is that some of these machines take away pain instantaneously, along with tell you all the vaccinations you've ever had. It's mind-blowing technology that has gotten a lot of people into trouble.
Yeah,
And
the Rife machine is one I'm familiar with, and I know that guy went through hell. He got locked up and lost everything, almost like Tesla. He got everything taken away.
his name?
Rife, R-I,
Yeah, Raymond
William,
Raymond Royce, right? Dr.
yeah,
Raymond
yeah,
Royce Rife.
yeah, yeah.
So basically, all of these were published by Smithsonian. The government came in and pretty much stole all his things, debunked his studies. He
Mhm.
became an alcoholic, lost his wife, and there it went, and then he died.
Yeah,
So federal government pretty much destroyed his life.
yeah,
This guy cured 14 cancer patients.
yeah,
14 cancer patients. Mind-blowing stuff.
yeah.
Now, some people, I just recently saw an article and a video on YouTube, and they're still bad-mouthing this guy,
Uh-huh.
this doctor that
Right.
was incredibly intelligent,
Yeah,
but they called him a lunatic.
right.
And unbelievable. So we are all energy,
Yes.
and people walk around blindly saying a couch is a couch, a desk
Right.
is a desk, but it's really
Mostly empty space.
because what you're seeing is energy. Yeah, it's you're able to see that's energy, all of it.
Right.
All you and I, you and
Yep.
I. So
Absolutely.
healing someone you can do through energy, and
And that's
it's
where
it's
really
mind
like
blowing.
you're just touching on something that's huge. And like I said, everything we're talking about, we could go hours into, and we tried, we did our best, but we're at the end of this show now. We can kind of let it loose a little bit. But when you talk about energy, you just opened up this whole gigantic universe, because when people talk about energy work, and people are like, oh yeah, woo, woo, woo. I'm like, well, a push-up is energy work. A thought is energy work. A positive affirmation is energy work. An apple is energy work. Everything is energy work. So when somebody thinks about something like Reiki or acupressure, or whatever your modality is that involves energy, whether it's electrical energy or radio frequencies or auras, or doesn't matter. It takes all these different forms. It's all energy, everything. So I think that's super important, because energy has a source, and it can move things. It can be in balance or
Yeah.
out of balance, all of those things. And I think that even having a tool that can even diagnose. So, I've had a little exposure to the Rife machine. My aunt had one, and I had it for about a month, and I was able to do a little dabbling with it. I didn't certainly have enough time to become adept at it, but I read some books, and I used it a little bit, and I felt some differences. But frankly, one of the things that it's able to do is diagnose. And it can, like you said, it can tell you, you're allergic to this and not that. You have a sensitivity to this, or you've been exposed to this. There's so many of us that have been exposed to toxins, heavy metals, forever chemicals, you name it. And as energy beings, these are powerful energies that can affect both the production and distribution of our energies a lot. And you take a magnet and you move it into a bowl of iron filings, and what happens? They all come flying at this thing, right? And you think to yourself, well, that's just a silly, simple example of something that's happening inside our bodies all the time. And it's not just a magnet that does it, but there's all kinds of things, radiation, compounds, even words, like Dr. Emoto's work with water, and the importance of what your body is mostly water, right? And he was able to determine that words affected the crystal formation of water. Well, what the hell do you think happens to you when you get sad or frightened or happy or in love or whatever? It's your whole body chemistry is affected by all of those things.
That's why positive affirmations are so important for us to recite on a daily basis.
Absolutely.
Why? We sit around and say, oh, that was so stupid of me.
Right.
No, you don't speak to yourself like that.
Right.
Because words are spellings.
Yeah.
And spellings, you're casting them on yourself.
Exactly.
And they're spells, right?
Right.
So, on that topic, I just want to bring something to your attention. I was sick for 3 weeks and I said, enough, I'm not doing this anymore. So intravenous, things like a vitamin B, glutathione, things of that nature, I'm now going to start incorporating, as well as walking around with this device.
Nice.
This device is amazing. So basically, this is negative ions.
Okay.
What is negative ions? Basically, you take a walk in the forest, those are negative ions.
Falling
And
rain.
when you yes, when you're walking around in nature, why is it that you feel so good?
Exactly.
Right? So this is my little air filtration system.
Walking forest.
And yes, so this is clearing the energy field around me, as well as protecting me from EMF.
Nice.
Because truth be told, too much EMF exposure, guess what? Increases the sizes of your vessels in your brain, as well as your veins and all of your vessels, and you feel foggy. You can't think. Mm-hmm. And I need to be able to think so I can study and pass my exams. And I got this device because it is very beneficial to me. Now, some people are going to call me, oh, that's hocus pocus. But you know what? It's a little expensive device that actually works, but I love it. Love it, love it, love it. But it is also going to help me. This is my mask, basically, so I don't absorb your germs.
I love it.
The distributor that I got it from here in California, I actually asked her, are you using that ionizer? And she said, I only use it when I fly out to Taiwan and come back, and everybody around me gets sick, but except for me. Mm-hmm. So that was enough for me to go ahead and invest in it and purchase it. But again, the air quality is not as it should be. The water quality is changing in California. Everything is affecting us. So you have to do the best you can to take care of you so that you don't fall slave to the system, so to speak.
Absolutely. Well, you did it again. You gave me a perfect falling off point. This is fantastic. You're a natural at this. This is all the time we have. We certainly scratched the surface of these topics, and that's what I was hoping to do, is getting you back in here to talk, because I know this is really important, the things that we're talking about, and it has to do with this whole healthy living community. It has to do with your life's work and my life's work, and it's not just about being healthy ourselves, but bringing that health to everybody. There's no reason why you or me or anybody we know has to suffer illness and disease and die at a young age or just have a miserable life. we can bring a life of joy and health and ability, and it should last a long time. I think we are all good for 120 years if we just give ourselves a chance, and that's where my goals are. And well, Christine, this is that magical moment where I give you a chance to pitch yourself, what you're doing, what you want us to know about, and how to get a hold of you.
Well, again, I have a website, nohighcbd.com. I am on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, and you can reach me in any of those platforms. I am available to just about every, I pretty much, I'm the show. I run the show. And if you get a hold of me, I will definitely reach out.
Fantastic. Well, I like the way you're going at this. I like the way the conversation's going, and I believe that there's a lot of goodness to explore in all this. But until next time, folks, this has been the Healthy Living Podcast, brought to you by Willow Creek Springs and Christine Leakos.